Ciao a tutti. Hello, everybody, from my home in Rome, Italy, where I am on lockdown or quarantine like so many other people are in the world at this time. I wanted to take a moment to tell a story of somebody who really made a difference in Community of Christ history. Today, I'm going to tell you the story about the Australian saint, Suzanne Marie Selden. Now, Suzanne was born in 1948 to an RLDS family who was very active. And when she was young, they moved from where she was born to Sydney, Australia. From the time she was very little, she had wanted to become a nurse, and she would start that training when she was a young woman at the age of 17. And little did she know that she would become a pioneer in health ministries for Community of Christ. In 1972, she met with Apostle Charles Neff, who asked her if she'd be interested in doing a medical mission to West Africa, which she most graciously accepted. Her first assignment was to the West African nation of Nigeria. Now, while she waited for about 2 years for visas to be processed and accepted by Nigeria, she moved to Independence and continued to train and work in the Independent Sanitarium. And one of the most important skills she learned there was how to deliver babies. This would be a skill that would serve her well during all of her missionary years. And she also served on church health and ministry teams for Haiti and Honduras after a few devastating crises that happened in those countries. Suzanne's first assignment was to establish a medical clinic in a centralized area of rural southeastern Nigeria in a village that was called Ikon Eyen Imo. Although her expertise were in maternal and child health, she found herself helping villagers with the big killers, which were diarrhea, malaria, and pneumonia. She was always an empathetic person, but she became quite sympathetic as she also suffered from a lot of these maladies. She described one time having dengue fever, where she had to take care of herself for 17 days with a broke bone fever and complete exhaustion. She also felt extremely lonely during this time, as we often do when we feel sick, but there were no reliable communication sources that she could use to be able to be in contact with the church or her family and loved ones. To be able to make remote visits and get supplies, Suzanne often told the stories about her 3 motorbikes. When she first arrived in Nigeria, she was given a small, unreliable motorbike by the church, which she called Faith. She finally upgraded to another bike given to her on a loan by a local man, and she called that bike Hope, as she hoped to never wreck that bike. And finally, another church missionary couple that were in Africa found out about her unreliable transportation, and they gave her a more reliable motorbike. And because of that act of generosity and kindness, she called that bike Charity. Suzanne would go on to work in other developing nations too, like Somalia and Papua New Guinea and Cambodia. Once, when someone inquired of her if it was wise for her to go to these places, she responded by saying, the only people to accept such positions were either a missionary, mad, a misfit, or a mercenary. And Suzanne was proud to say that she had a lot of those descriptions within herself. Her ministry in Somalia was to work with impoverished women who were suffering from anemia, which often caused death for mothers during childbirth. But perhaps her most difficult assignment was in Cambodia after the Pol Pot regime ended. She found a traumatized people in a nation where over 1 million people had been killed. She learned here that addressing the mental and emotional conditions of people was just as important as the physical. Her mission was to provide ministry to the whole person, as she would say. She wanted to empower people to improve their own lives. She also cautioned against speaking for those who are being served, but rather to empower those people to speak for themselves. Suzanne was an influential person in understanding what mission is. Her Christ-like ministry was a blessing to so many individuals and the church too. Her home nation of Australia asked her to create a prototype of clinic which could be used to train health workers destined for community development. She also received the International Human Rights Award from Community of Christ in 2013. And then sadly, she passed away in her home in Sydney on August the 30th, 2019. It seems fitting in this time of the world to tell the story of someone called to heal. At this moment of world pandemic, we pray for the Suzannes of our world, our communities, neighborhoods, states, and nations, who are on the front lines of diagnosing, treating, and comforting. Often they do not have enough protective equipment. They're in short numbers and exhausted, yet they always show up to help. They are staying by the beds of those who simply cannot breathe with this virus. And finally, with those who die because their families can't be present in that sacred moment because of fear of being contaminated. God bless the doctors, the nurses, the technicians, and all others who provide the ministry of comfort, healing, and peace at this time. I hope you enjoyed the story of Suzanne.